Ladies and gentlemen, we are officially live with a special guest tonight that I've been following his content, his journey pretty closely the last few weeks. He's a legend. I've wanted to get him on the show. He's finally here, and I feel like he's gonna be one of the best guests because so many of you guys are new to Kalshi and just prediction markets as a whole. And he's like the perfect guest to have on because he just started trading on Kalshi like a month ago. But without further ado, he's live in the voice call. Esoteric Catboy, how are you doing?
Hey, how's it going? It's nice to finally talk to you. I've been following your content ever since I started trading on Kalshi, so it's good to be here. It's kind of a surreal experience because I don't know if people saw the tweet, but I was trading on a Fred guy mentioned market 2 weeks ago. It was like Peter Schiff. What will he say during the interview?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, I'm betting on whether he's going to say recession or Bitcoin or bubble and all this kind of stuff. And then 2 weeks later, you do the interview with Fred Guy and you mention my name, my account. It's kind of this
Full
inception type of
circle. There
experience.
should have been a
Yeah, it's
mention
crazy.
market for yesterday's stream. That would have gone
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah, that would have been could have done some insider trading.
No, never around here. But
No
look,
one would ever do that.
I guess maybe to get started, maybe like even outside of prediction markets, obviously to the level you're comfortable sharing, like you want to explain a little bit about like your general background to the audience.
Sure. So I am in my senior year of college. I just turned 21 in June. And so the first thing I did when I turned 21 was I decided to go through all the sports books because you can't gamble on sports unless you're 21 or older. I know that when you're new to sports books, they give you all these kinds of different offers. Like if you
Right.
deposit $1,000, they'll match 1,000 back to you or whatever. So I have like 20K in my bank account that I've saved up over the years. And so I go through all these sports books. I just rinse them for all their
The
promotional
signups.
offers. Yeah, I made like 10K doing that. I'm like, this is awesome. This is like free money, and I'm just keep on doing this. But eventually, they limit you, and you don't get the offers anymore. So that
Yeah.
well sort of dried up,
No,
and
exactly. Yeah.
yeah. So it's not like a sustainable thing to do long term unless you're plus EV better, sports better, and
hmm
that's really hard to do because you're competing with like professionals and there's like a massive house edge that they have. So it's pretty hard to make profit sports betting long term.
Yeah.
So uh, the first sort of thing that maybe want to do Kalshi, not Kalshi in particular, but it leads up to that. On Twitter, the day before Israel struck Iran with uh, bombs or whatever,
Right.
there was like a lot of news that that was going to happen. Like people were
Yeah. That
speculating.
was crazy
All
at the
the
time. I
Iranian
remember that.
officials were saying something was going to happen. The Israeli officials were like, they were sort of pointing that this event was going to happen. But I was like, okay, I'm seeing all this on my feed. Is there any way I can profit from this? Because I'm pretty convinced that it is going to happen. And so I just place options, calls on Lockheed Martin, which is a military
Man,
company.
options
Yeah,
trader too
yeah,
over
the
here.
day before it happens, and then I see on the news like that night these videos of Israel just like disintegrating the Iranian airspace and just missiles raining everywhere. And I see
Yeah.
the futures for Lockheed Martin. The stock is up like $10, and so I log into my Robinhood account the next day, and my position is up like 300%. And that's what got me addicted to like trading off of news. And the next thing that happened that was kind of like that, it didn't turn out well for me, was on we talked about this earlier, but
Yeah.
on Twitter there was this rumor that Trump was dead because he hadn't done any public appearances for like 4 days. So everyone
That
was
was a
like,
crazy time. Yeah,
yeah,
we were talking about that. I remember
you
that.
would see like posts on the timeline of like 200K likes, and then people are saying, "Oh, Trump is dead" or whatever. JD Vance can take over. I kind of bought into the hype, so to speak. I'm like, okay, how can I profit off this? I look up, can I bet on Trump getting out of office in 2025? And I see a Kalshi market on it, and then I make an account, I deposit $500. Uh, I place a bet on yes at 30 cents. The next day he comes out completely fine as though nothing happened, and my position is down like 30 or 40%.
So you didn't
So that
start
was my
as a
first
sharp.
Kalshi trade.
You did not start as a
Yeah.
sharp. You came in on one of the. You bought into the FOMO right in the beginning.
Yep. I degened it. But see, if you like figured it out beforehand that people were going to start speculating about that, you could have bought it at like 5 cents and then sold it at 30, like a 6 times profit.
Yeah, I want to pause there on like okay, first thing I want to say is like, man, talking to you, it's crazy. So I'm 26 for context, so I'm not much older than you, but like you and how your mind is at like 21 is like legitimately how I was like when I turned 18. I like tried to teach
Yeah.
myself to count cards to like win at blackjack, and I would drive to like an hour on my own to like a Indian casino to try to like, and then I got all into like poker, trying to find edges in poker, and that was like
Yep.
what I got obsessed with then for years. So like that's so funny hearing like you turning 21. I bet you were probably so excited to be turning 21,
I
right?
was
And you're like, I can
yeah,
rip all these like things.
finally do everything I wanted to do. One thing you posted earlier was it was this like meme. It was like, if your childhood looks like this, you're probably going to succeed in prediction markets. And it was like a RuneScape image.
There we
I played
go.
RuneScape when I was like 10 or 11. My older brother got me into it, and I
Yeah.
remember trading on the Grand Exchange, just flipping stuff from. You'd buy something cheap and then you'd sell
You
it for
were
more
you
expensive.
used to merch. You were a little
Yeah,
mercher.
yeah, I was a merchant, and I
Zora
remember making.
scales.
It was a long time ago, but that
Yeah.
just sort of got me into the mindset of like, yeah, you can trade. That's a thing that you can do, and
100%. And yeah, seriously, like
it also
RuneScape.
had order books too. Like that's how I learned what an order book is, because
Yeah.
there's people bidding and there's people selling at certain prices.
Foster's in the chat. He says he also was a mercher. And you know what's funny? Chris Flupnalide is his Twitter. He's like a huge sports sharp, like, and
Yeah,
he was saying he used to play RuneScape like that was his childhood. It's so funny. I just moved to New York. My good friend in New York, who I used to like growing up, I hadn't seen him in like 15 years, but we would do sleepovers when we were in like middle school, and we would just do all nighters playing RuneScape. And I meet him now. He's like a trader on Wall Street for a family office. He's managing like I want to say like 7 billion AUM on some like long
Jesus.
short portfolio. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
The
insane
RuneScape
how
pipeline.
right. And then for me, after RuneScape, it was Roblox. I think you're a bit too
Oh
old for that, but
yeah, I was a
yeah,
Minecraft guy.
yeah, you could like you could spend like $100 to get, or not $100, but like $20 back then, because that was a lot of money, to get 2,000 Robux, and then you'd use that to buy limited items, which are kind of like tradables.
Yeah.
They have a similar system in like CS if you've ever played that.
I did.
Or TF2.
CS:GO. I was LE, and I used to. I did do all the CS:GO Lotto stuff back in the day.
Yeah.
With skins and everything.
And so you'd go into these games and then you'd find people who had items that you wanted and you trade them, and then each item had like a value, which is how much it was selling for. And then you try and grow your portfolio like that. So I had experience with that too. And then I went to the stock market when I was like 15 or 16. My dad made an account for me. I put in $200 that I saved. I made a bunch of money just trading random shit, and then there was this Chinese company I went all in on. It was like the meant to be the Starbucks of China.
Luck
It
and
was,
Coffee.
Luck and Coffee, yes. And I got rugged. I got rugged because they were reporting fake financial information.
Hey, I was a CPA before all this, so I used to
Oh
be
my
on all these
dude.
public financials. I know how
Dude,
it
the
is
stock
over
price,
there.
I was up like 50%. My portfolio is at like $400, and then the next day it's worth like 50.
Dude, that is so hilarious. Cause yeah, I used to. I remember growing up, I used to trade, and like my dad would like. I talked to him about buying stocks or whatever and trying to pick
Yeah.
stocks. But I'm curious because you actually, like you're saying, ended up trading. What is your thought on trading equities right now? Like, do you see that as potential? You could actually make money, or not as much?
The market is so weird right now. Like everyone kind of expects that something big is gonna happen in terms of like, okay, the market's just constantly going up over for like the last 2 years. It's up like a shit ton.
Well, I
Even
would.
after Liberation Day and whatever.
Have you ever heard
Uh,
efficient market hypothesis for like equities?
yes, I have. Yep.
And are you a believer? Or are you not a believer?
I think in the general sense, like an ETF is going to be efficient because the more volume there is, the more people trading it, the more efficient it's going to be because of the wisdom of the crowd. Uh, there's like a good allegory for this. In the old days, they used to have those carnivals where you'd have like elephants or whatever there, and one of the games was you used to be able to bet on how many pounds the elephant weighs. And individually, people would have completely wild answers. They have like 100 pounds or 10,000 pounds, just
Yeah.
completely off, right? But once you average the all the people's guesses together, it's like really close to the actual amount. I think that sort of thing exists in all financial markets because the financial incentive is there to
Right.
get things right.
Well,
But in terms of like individual stocks, I think they can be inefficiently priced.
fair.
That's
Yeah.
why I actively manage my portfolio.
I brought that up because I mean, I would like I don't trade individual stocks because, I'm kind of efficient markets hypothesis and I think,
Yeah,
why would you compete against like institutional investors who are
right.
like way better capitalized, way more investment into research, knowledge, all those things. But that's kind of what draws me to like Kalshi and like prediction markets is like
Yeah,
here are these markets that are in their infancy and as we're going to get into they're extremely inefficient that I know
exactly.
you've realized. So it's like,
Yes.
I'm like, why would I ever trade stocks in this
Even
highly
even
highly
if
efficient?
you do think you have an edge in the stock market, whatever your edge is, it's going to be 10 times as small as your potential edge in Kalshi and prediction markets.
Right. and and,
Uh,
and the
I pretty
only
much stopped like looking at my portfolio. I just let it do its thing since I started trading on Kalshi because I realized that the return on my investment, both monetarily and in terms of the amount of time that I'm spending, I'm getting way more out of focusing on Kalshi.
Yeah, 100%. And like trading equities, it's like maybe there are extremely thin edges that like
Yeah,
institutional players will find. But the whole point of why those are so profitable for them is they have huge capital they can deploy at it.
right.
When you're someone like, you know, obviously you turned 1K to 30K, like you're talking about that amount of money in traditional finance, like equities, like,
Yeah, that would be
not going
like
to
that
move
would
a
take like
needle.
decades for
Right.
you to do in like a normal portfolio.
All
But
right.
that's why
Well,
people are drawn to like options and
yeah,
WSD
which
degen
I
stuff.
never recommend anyone watching this channel. And Rasta Biker is saying, I just got on Kalshi a few days ago. I'm up 2K from 2K deposit. Let's go. Well, look,
Nice.
we could ramble on this forever because I love your background, your thoughts, and like I just see so many similarities to like how I was thinking. Still think about all this stuff. But you touched on in the beginning about how you got on Kalshi and your first trade, which it sounds like was a loser when you deposited 500. Why
Yes.
don't you walk us through like this 1K to 30K in basically a month and like how you pulled that off and like what your trades have focused on, things like that. Just like walk us through what that path has been like.
Sure. So my first deposit was $500. I went all in on the Trump out trade, and after that failed, I was down to like $300, I think. And then I saw the other markets, like the mentions, sports,
Hmm.
culture, that kind of thing. And I was like, some of these markets I know I can make some money on. So I had out of that $300, I put some on Mamdani to win. He was at like 60 cents then. And then I also put some on UFC futures. So it was like a champion, one of the champions to remain as champion in 2026. I'm like, okay, this is a lock, but I'm getting like 50% return on my money in a year and 2 months. That doesn't really seem too good in terms of the amount of money that I can make on $300.
Yeah.
I see the mentions markets, which have like 1 day turnarounds. It's stuff that
Right.
happens. The binary events, they happen like instantly, and you know whether it's going to win or lose the day off.
Exactly.
And so I see the Jimmy Kimmel market. It's his
That was
first
your first one?
show. Yeah, that was my first mentions. Uh, it was his first show back after he did the show about Charlie Kirk's death, and he got like kicked off. He got kicked off.
Yeah, I remember it. I
What?
did a whole stream on it. I remember his show
Yeah,
got canceled. They had the markets for
and then he
Willie
came back, and it was
apologized.
like super hyped. And
Yeah.
he was talking about it and everything. So I did some research. I saw all the strikes, and I looked back at the old episodes of the Jimmy Kimmel Show. I noticed that whenever he has guests on, uh, they're typically actors and people who are starring in movies and shows and stuff, and they're there specifically to promote their shows. And at the end of their segment, Jimmy will say, "You can find their show on whatever streaming site, so like HBO or Fubo or Netflix, that kind of thing." And one of the streaming sites is Disney Plus, and one of the strikes was Disney. I noticed that 2 out of 3 of the guests that night had shows on Disney Plus, and I'm like, wait, this strike
Oh,
is
that's
trading at
perfect.
yes for 40 cents. This is pretty much a lock in my mind because he's guaranteed to say Disney Plus in that way. And so I deposit another $500, and I go all in on Disney, and the bet hits. And now I'm up to like 1,700,
Wait, so
like
so you put,
$1,400.
sorry, you put 500 on that strike?
So I had 300 remaining from the Trump trade, and I deposited
Right.
500, and then I went all in, or I went nearly
So
all in the money
800.
that I didn't have. So I had like 200 in other trades. So I think I put in like 600 in total into the Disney Yes strike, and then my portfolio value was up to like 1.8K after that.
I love that. So
Yeah,
you looked at historical to explain to like the audience who didn't completely catch it, right? So Jimmy Kimmel, there was a mention market for his return. By the way, movie fruit, have you considered putting on some weight with your new winnings? Look, I ate pizza tonight. It's only a matter of time. But okay, for anyone who didn't just kind of catch what he was just talking about. So there was a mention market for Jimmy Kimmel, who was returning with his show. He looked at like all these historical transcripts or historical shows of Jimmy Kimmel and found that every time he was signing off a guest, like telling him goodbye, he would say, you can catch their show on X platform. So if it's a Netflix show, Disney show, he's going to say Netflix, Disney Plus, yada, yada.
definitely.
And there were 2 guests coming on in his return that had shows that they were going to hype up on Disney Plus. And Disney as a strike was only trading at 40%, meaning,
40 cents.
yeah,
Yeah,
2.5x your
2.5
money.
times. Yep, your money.
That is crazy. I love that because like I just sometimes feel like I'm like talking to the void sometimes when you probably made that trade and were so confident. You know what I mean? Like that's why
Yep,
you had the
yep.
conviction to kind of full port it, which guys, I never would
Don't
recommend.
fall for it. Don't do that. Like I've
Yeah.
learned over time, that's just not a good
Do
idea. No
not
matter
full
how
port.
confident you are, yeah, stick to give yourself like a hard limit, maybe like 20% of your port, something like that,
Yeah,
and you'll be fine.
100%. But I just mean like that opportunity, that strike was
Yeah,
so unbelievably mispriced. And you probably had such high conviction. And I mean, anyone listening and hearing his, what he's talking about, you can probably agree that, like, yeah, that's extremely mispriced. And yeah, I just sometimes feel like I'm talking to the void when I try to explain to people, like, how many things like that you can find on Kalshi and, like, just how frequently I will find it on trades. So, like, seeing your run up and, like, seeing what you're talking about with some of these trades, it's, like, refreshing to see.
yeah, yeah. It's kind of crazy, honestly. I've had some rough patches here and there, but overall, like the journey upwards has been pretty consistent, and it's just rewarding, when you see the number in your account go up and up and up. It's
Yeah.
like
So,
you're being rewarded for this.
so
And
you've,
I'll give you some other information. Like I'm graduating this year, so obviously I'm applying to jobs. I'm in computer science, and the way AI is like revolutionizing the field, like there's a mass reduction in the amount of new grads that they're taking, and I'm spending like 4 or 5 hours every day applying to all these jobs. Like
yeah.
99% of them will just reject you instantly. And you compare that to like seeing your money in your account go up based on the amount of work that you do. It's kind of like a no-brainer why I've been putting so much time into Kalshi.
Yeah, I mean the reward you get from like a correct trade. I mean, it's instantaneous versus, I mean, I talked about this. I mean, my old job, I was a CPA grinding on work papers and, financials. And it's like, you can put all this effort into it. And it's like at the end of the day, what my financial statements are going to be slightly more, accurate, or, management will have a slightly better, grasp on what's going into costs, things like that. So I totally agree with you there. But okay, so you have a sick trade in the beginning. I mean, if that was at 40 cents, you did $600.
Right.
You probably got like 1,500 shares or so, if I'm doing the math right. Walk us through from there, because that's about almost $1,000 profit. Like, what did you focus on next?
So I'm up to like 1,600, 1,700, something like that. Now I'm hooked on mentioned markets because I know I can do research. I can see what there are inefficiencies, try and find an edge or whatever.
Right.
So I'm looking at all the mentions, and Trump is obviously like the biggest guy when it comes to mentions. Like half the mention or a third of the mention markets are about Trump events or whatever. So I was pretty political in my earlier years, so I have a lot of experience just like watching Trump speeches or whatever, and I know all about his politics and the things he says and that kind of thing. So I started betting on Trump mentions. I was kind of doing it like by vibes at the beginning because I didn't know how to research or what to look for, but I was losing a decent amount. I think I went down like a few $100, and then after that is when I started doing more research. So I started looking at the context of what the event is, who's going to be speaking there, what time it is.
Just to pause there, I mean, an important thing. Like I always say, if you're new to Kalshi and starting out, start small. And I mean, it's kind of the exact point you're talking about now, where in the beginning, you're not going to naturally be sharp, no matter how, because I mean, even talking about your background and like your interests, like I just can so easily see how like you would find an edge on here. But like even you, it's like you can't just trade in Trump mentions, immediately be profitable. I mean, you're competing against people.
You're going to lose. You're going to get rinsed.
Yeah, at least in the beginning. But go on.
So that's what I did at the beginning. And then I started to do more research. And then I started to slowly see better and better results. I was getting like $100 here and there. I think the biggest thing in the beginning was just focusing on one niche, which was political speakers. So I would ignore like late night shows. I would ignore podcasts, that kind of thing. I would just hard focus on Trump and other political mentions. Recently, my last month, like most of my profits have been made trading Mamdani. So I did a lot of research on Mamdani, and I've made like 4 or 5 different trades, which maybe about like 10K in total.
What were those trades?
So one of them was the election night, which was just a couple of days ago. I made 5K that. That was like a crazy night for me. That was my biggest night so far.
Oh yeah.
Nice. About like 1 or 2K was from early events and the election results themselves. I had a bit of money on Mamdani to win, but the rest was from the victory speech for Mamdani and the concession speech for Cuomo. I noticed that once the election was decided, like Mamdani was up 99%. A lot of people cashed out and they went to the mentions markets, and the volume started like jumping massively. It was at like 20K. Then after the election was called, it was at like 100K. So I noticed that there's all these people coming from the elections category to the mentions category, and the lines. I was talking about this to Probability Duck. The lines for this market are just like insane because I have like a lot of experience trading mentions at this point, and I know like if something is close to its fair value or not. And I see a word that I know he's not going to say, like with 80 or 90% confidence, it's trading at 40%. So I just hammer these lines. I'm in for like $4,000. And then he does a speech. I'm looking good on all my strikes. And then one thing that happens is he does his... So I did a lot of research on him beforehand for previous events that he did. And one of his slogans is, "We're going to make buses fast and free." He doesn't say anything about free buses. He says we're going to make them fast and free. And that's important because the strike is free bus. Free buses, and it also counts for free buses. So if he said free buses, it would go yes. But if
Right.
he says we're going to make buses fast and free, and that's the only thing he says, then it's going to go no. So I bet a lot on no for that. And I noticed that the last victory speech he had for the primary, he said the same thing. He's going to make buses fast and free. So I'm like hyper focused on this strike while I'm trading because I know that could come up in the event. And if it does happen, then people could mistakenly mog the strike down to like 99 cents because they think he said it. So I have the strike open, and then he says we're gonna make buses fast and free. I notice the price goes up like a shit ton, and then someone places a massive bid order at like 70 cents for like 5,000 shares, and I just eat it all at once because I know he's not gonna say free buses in the rest of the speech. And so I made like $1,500 off that trade. And that's just an example of what you can do if you have the research done and you have the experience and you know
And the
you have
conviction.
a good right.
Because
You gotta have confidence
it's
too.
hard to make those types of trades live when you have like
Right,
10
you just have like
seconds.
1 or 2 seconds exactly.
Yep.
That's it.
And it's funny that you mentioned that because, that type of live trading and like your thought process there is like, I'm just like so surprised that, you've only traded on Kalshi for a month and like just the way you're thinking about these mentions. And maybe it's because you talked to probability duck a ton, but like, I like that's such like one of the best ways to think about mentions going into it. Like you're saying with live trading, especially in deep, is
Yep.
what are the potential things he could say that people would mistakenly mog the order book. And like you're
Exactly, yeah.
already thinking that. Like I had Foster on for an interview a few months ago, and
Oh,
he's
I saw like he had like those trades where he went
one
from like
cent
$100 to 10,000,
because the
whatever.
exact
That's
thing you're
crazy.
talking about now, where he was
Yep.
just ready to mog the order
Yep.
book if somebody
And
mistakenly.
you can put limits down at 1 cent, and when people mog it, it will get eaten up. And now you have
Yep.
a 1 cent yes for this strike that you think is gonna go no.
Yeah,
Or
that's
yes.
just insane that you're already like, yeah, that's freaking sick. So you made five, or I think you say, was it 4K on his speech?
Uh, I think in total I put down, including that live trade, I put down like 6.7, and I made like 10 point something. So I made 3K, free and a bit. And then Cuomo, like pretty much the exact same thing happened that same night. With
Yeah.
Cuomo, one of the strikes was congratulate. But for verbs in Kalshi, it doesn't count like tenses. So, or doesn't count like, I don't know what the exact word is, but if the strike was congratulate, congratulations wouldn't count.
Right.
Or
Right.
congratulated wouldn't count. And so it's a very specific thing for it to be priced at like 80 cents for it the S. And so I bought some no at 20 cents before the market because I'm like, maybe he says it a different way. And then during the speech, I noticed something like very different from what I thought he was going to do, which was in the primary, when he lost the primary, he made like a pretty conciliatory speech where he was giving Mumdani his props and he was like, okay, I lost, whatever. But this time he was like pretty like angry, and I noticed he said, we as New Yorkers can't give up and let Mamdani enact his dangerous policies, something like that. I'm
Yeah.
noticing like he's pretty aggressive right now. I don't think he's going to congratulate Mamdani. And there's this massive order book of congratulate no. And I buy it all the way up to 50 cents. So I'm at like 2,000 shares now. Um, so here's the thing, like, even though I have my conviction, I was actually wrong in a way because he said congratulations, Mamdani, and the crowd booed, and he's like, no, we can't do that. We gotta give him his props. But even though he said congratulations, it didn't count because the strike was congratulate. So you can
Right.
see that if a word is very specific, then and there's different ways of it being said, then the no side is going to be more valuable in most cases.
God, you are so sharp. I just can't like, yeah, that's such like that's literally that thought process of like live trade. I mean, I think there's like a great example of like when I always talk about vibes, and I mean using vibes in live trading there, where you immediately, because nobody knows going into the speech
Yeah.
like what it's gonna, at least for Cuomo, like no one knows if how Cuomo's gonna react after the election, because
Right.
obviously pre-election, like they're gonna hate each other or just talk shit on each other. But then,
Yeah. The
um,
only like reference point that I had was when he lost in the primary, and
mhm.
he was pretty like conciliatory. He was giving respects to Mamdani, so I was expecting it to be like that.
I
As
was
soon as I
too.
saw him change his tone, I just like jumped at the bit.
But
I sent you
that's,
the I sent you the market. You can see the graph for that
yeah,
strike.
I have it on my screen right now. I'm sharing my screen, by the way, in Discord if you want to
Okay.
see whatever I'm
Yeah, I
showing.
see it.
But yeah, I mean that's just a perfect way, or like really smart way to trade. Like is live trading small things that are going to give you an edge as new information comes out, like especially with mentions. It's the same thing. Like another example to people watching to think about, right, is like frequently you'll have a Trump speech or you'll have some other type of speech, and then you're not sure of what the format's going to be, right? Like, maybe
Right.
is there going to be a Q&A? Are there going to be guests? Because all these things are going to impact the probability. So it's like
Exactly.
if you then find out, oh, there is a Q&A, you immediately know, and you're the
All
first to
the S's are going to
react.
be
It
way
under
higher.
Right, right. So like that's just another example of like what you're talking about, where it's like using that new information to price. And this speech is like, I guess I'm impressed that it's like, because you mentioned there's like 5K shares sitting there. It's hard often to like have conviction to pull the trigger, but
Yeah, exactly. So
you've been
that's the
able to
thing.
do
Like
that.
I've seen opportunities like that as I've come up when I'm at like $2,000 portfolio or 3K portfolio. But when your portfolio is that small, you can't really mog 2,000 shares of anything. So
Yeah.
you got to just sit and watch it happen. And if you're right, then okay, you know that in the future you can use that information to your advantage. And so as my portfolio has grown, the amount of risky plays that I've been able to take is more and more.
Yeah, for sure. And um, I guess on that kind of topic, one thing I really like about the content you've been doing as well that I will see is like, which I'm pretty impressed by, is like as your portfolio has been growing, it looks like you've been sizing up accordingly. And there's like no hesitation there. Like I'm blown away
Yep.
that you turned 1K into 30K in a month, and here you are throwing 6.5K on a single Mamdani speech, which
Yeah.
is the right thing to be doing. You should be doing that because you
Right.
clearly have a huge edge, and
That was
you're,
a super high confidence
but
market for me.
but I'm
'Cause,
just
yeah,
like the fact that you're
right. The
sizing
point is
up.
taken. Like it's 6 times my initial deposit. So
Yeah, and the fact you're able to do that so quickly, like you're not like, usually you run up a portfolio like that. It's like you're not gonna immediately, a week ago you
yeah,
were
you're gonna be
throwing
scared
five
to
hundred
scale.
dollars. Now,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm curious now that you have scaled to like 34K profit.
Mm.
How do you personally think about sizing of your trades? Like what's going through? I'm sure now you're probably starting to get to the point sometimes where like you're limited
Yeah,
by liquidity,
liquidity.
right?
Yep.
But
So for mentions, depending on the market, it will either be like really low liquidity or like medium liquidity. So if it's a good market, you can put like a few $1,000s down, and you can get decent fills. Uh, so as far as how to size, I would say like it's based for me. It's based on if it's high liquidity and I have high confidence that I have an edge in this market, then I'll size a lot more. I'll size like 10% or 7% of my portfolio. But if it's lower, my evaluation of the EV is lower, that I have less of an edge here, then I'll do like 3 or 4% of my portfolio. Uh, it also depends. Like sometimes you get adversely selected for your fills, so you get
right,
like your bad picks filled, and then
right.
your good picks don't get filled. That's kind of annoying when that happens. So you have to be careful about how you set up your limit orders. And I do think speaking about limit orders is important because a lot of people I've talked to on Twitter or in Discord about Kalshi don't actually use limit orders. They just use market orders for everything. I think that's a big mistake that people are making.
I agree wholeheartedly, and I mean, you'll see it where like sometimes I'll put out picks for a mention market and I'll assign a fair value, and then I'll
And if people
see
buy it like
go
at
up to
20
90,
cents higher.
and I'm like, please tell me you didn't fill that at 90, and then people are like, it didn't hit. I'm like, dude, But
Well, if you
guys,
got it at 20 cents, you wouldn't be too upset about it not winning.
exactly. So I'm showing on my screen, just a quick pause, guys, how to do limit orders on Kalshi. So if you just are normally on Kalshi, right, you won't even see this view. It'll probably just say dollars. You can do this in the app too, by the way. Like, I think you have to go into settings. But here's how to do limit orders. I'm going to click this button, limit order, and then if I click on this, I'll see the order book. And guess what? I don't even have to type anything in here if I don't want to. I can just, if I say I want to market buy something, I can just click, and then it's going to give me, I'll move my camera really quick. It's kind of blocking it, but it's going to give me 100 shares at 55, which is available in the order book. Always use limit orders, even if you're market buying, is my opinion, guys. But if you decide to actually be a maker where you're not going to market buy, you're getting benefits of you're not paying fees. You're going to get the best end of the spread.
Exactly.
And even if you're, like I said, even if you're being a taker, even if you're just market buying, it's just better to use that. That way you're going to,
Just to be safe.
yeah, and have no slippage.
My friend did a market order and he was like, okay, I'm gonna get this much for this amount of dollars. But it changed like the second he did it, so he ended up getting less shares, which is like, okay, you can avoid that by just doing a limit order.
Yeah.
Even if you go to the order book and show them, like, you can just click on one of the prices, you can buy all the shares up to that point, it will do it for you.
100%. Okay, so I'm curious, like, you've honestly just had like an insane run, and making 30K or so in a month. I guess let's see, I'll ask you this first. Looking forward,
Mhm.
what do you see yourself focusing on in the future? Do you currently want to stay in mentioned markets? Have you been looking at other markets? Because I think like what I like my thoughts are like you've clearly shown that you're very sharp in mentions, in a very fast time frame. You're probably starting to get limited by liquidity. So,
Yep.
at that point, it's like if you want to just maximize for gross returns, maybe you're thinking like I need to start trading in other markets. But I guess, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So my thought process regarding that is, yeah, definitely I've noticed that like the exponential scaling in mentions markets can only take you so far because if you can only put like $2,000 down on each event, then you're not going to be able to scale your port exponentially when you hit like 50K.
100%.
So, but if you can continue to make a consistent profit of like $1,000 a day, something like that, just from trading mentions, you could use that money and put it into a more liquid market where you also have an edge, and then grow that extra money you got from mentions exponentially. So you can bring it to culture, which is what I'm currently looking at right now. Trying to
Culture.
find culture markets where I have an
I
edge
love that. Yeah,
because
I'm
the
thinking
liquidity
culture
is way higher.
when
Yeah,
because I talked to Gayton, I talked to Grande Top 10 a lot. They're like very sharp culture traders. And I feel like culture is probably one of the best on ramps from mentions because it's
exactly.
probably similar in the sense where it's like you can find things that are just so mispriced and you can maybe get a
Right.
little more money down and maybe more like bonds, where you can probably allocate, if you only need like my thought process of how I'm thinking about this is like for mentions, I maybe only need like 5 to 10K available liquidity in any given day to consistently be able to trade all the mentions. So if I can allocate like 50K of the rest of
Yeah.
my portfolio to those types of
Elsewhere.
yeah, like bonds or whatever you want to call them, like,
Even if the return is much smaller, exponentially you're gonna because the amount of money that you're wagering is
right.
higher, the amount of money that you're gonna make is gonna keep on growing,
Yeah.
which is good.
So is that kind of your thoughts?
Yeah, that's my thought process. I do think even though like some of these markets have 2 million, 3 million in volume, there's still like a lot of stuff that is mispriced. Uh, One market that I've been looking at is the Google search market. I'm sure you've taken a look at
Yeah.
that too.
Yeah. I haven't taken a detailed look, but I just, that's a market that I just know is mispriced because I know nobody
Yes,
freaking
yes,
knows how that Google
the
search shit
rules.
works. So
Yep.
I'm like, if I just spent some time looking at it, like, yeah.
I'm gonna give like a pick that I think is pretty confident towards the end of the year, I think.
All right.
Uh, I'm probably gonna put like at least like 10, 15K on it. I'm like super confident that it's a bond.
All right. I got it pulled up. I have the number one search person. Is it that market?
Yes,
Or
it's this market. Yeah.
let's hear it.
I would say if you look at the rules and how like they actually determine this, it's not scientific. It is subjective, but they do have like a criteria, and with that criteria, there's like a section where it's like, in order to be classified as a viral trend or person or whatever it is, the term that they use, you have to have 500% more search volume than the last year. Some of these people are so famous that the probability that they have 500% more search volume is like super low. Um, you could probably point out an example of that.
Trump.
And also, if you look at the historical trends for this, the people that are selected in the top one or top five for these year by searches, you can see that almost no one who gets in from the last year is in the next year. So if you look at 2024's market and you see someone who's in it for this one, you know it's almost like a lock that they're not going to get in this year. So that's the edge that I'm going to give for this.
Wait, so you're saying if you see someone in last year's market, like even on the list of like
In
potential?
top five, yeah,
Oh, in
top
top
five.
five. Okay.
Because there's also a top five market for
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. Interesting. Okay, that's where you're cutting it off. That's
Yeah, in
that's
terms of
fair.
that, because
That's good.
I do want to give like a
No, no,
more
yeah,
formal pick later on.
yeah. Um, interesting. Yeah, I'm gonna look. I'm gonna look at that market more.
Yeah,
I just think there's
it's
something there.
all I'm gonna say is there's a lot of like bonds there that you can pick up.
That's what I exactly what I figure. I've seen all these posts on Twitter about that market, and I'm like, I gotta get in there. I
Donald Trump is guaranteed to win top one search next year. His search volume is
exactly.
5 times higher than Pope Leo's. How is he gonna lose?
Yeah.
Generic polymarket affiliate number 236.
Yeah, that's yeah. I'm gonna get in on this one. I need to carve out some time. So culture, anything else? I mean, you mentioned. I know you put money on Mamdani. I mean, I'm probably in the
Yeah,
same boat as you, where I'm not a political trader, but like, come on, it
yeah.
was always
It's just
Mamdani.
like it's so free. Yeah, it's just like people pumping Cuomo for like the most stupid reasons. I saw a post on Twitter where it's like the Mamdani campaign is pouring money into the poly market so his odds can be higher, so the Cuomo voters get discouraged and they don't show up in the on the election day. I'm like, you'd have to do that on Kalshi and poly market, and the volume is so high you'd have to spend like tens of millions of dollars to do this.
Yeah, for a
And then
mayor
if
race,
Cuomo
it's like
does win, you're putting all this money on a minus EV trade that you're gonna probably lose. It's like, why would you do that instead of just spending on ads? I don't see what the reason for that is, and that's the reason why he pumped as high as he did, like to 15% towards the last few days. I'm like, I need to get as much money on this as I possibly can. People compared it to Trump versus Kamala in 2024, which was some people saw as an upset because the Kalshi and Polymarket odds, the favorite was Kamala for most of the final week, I think. But even in that race, some of the polls were really close. Some of the polls had Trump winning, but
yeah,
none of the polls had Cuomo winning. One of them had Cuomo like somewhat close in a head-to-head race, but the race wasn't head-to-head. Sliwa was in the race, and he was taking away some of the Republican votes. So I just don't see what path Cuomo had to win. And for
yeah.
me, at 90 cents, that was just like a 98% FV
Well,
play right.
it was crazy election night because, um, you know, the New Jersey governor race had already like virtually been called. Virginia had already been called. Like we were seeing like a huge Democratic
Yeah,
sweep. And before the first votes came out in New York, Mamdani was still
94.
94 with a million in liquidity. I just
Yeah,
could not.
I was watching a stream. That was a really good stream, by the way. Yeah,
I
I agree with you. I agreed with you, but I didn't have like
No,
$1 million
I
to
know.
spend it.
If only, if only. But like that was insane to me, and I guess it like defies because I'm always like the deeper the liquidity, like it's good. But like, dude, seeing that, I'm like, if I had a million, I mean,
Yeah,
yeah.
just chuck it on it.
Granted,
I
it
don't
was
know if
it
you
was a
saw, but
lot.
like someone
Yeah.
Someone posted an idea as like a $3 million slip that they had on Mamdani winning. It's
Wow.
crazy.
Yeah, I didn't see it. That's insane. So I have on my screen. I was talking about this on this morning's stream. How that C5+1 summit was closed
Yep.
press, but they've had closed press events be
That were
publicized
open.
before, like
Yep.
the Zelensky speech. So I just took the take. I probably should have bought no shares, but I just took the take that I was like, okay, I'm just not gonna play it until I get more
Yep.
information that's actually streamed. But it looks
So
like, yeah,
it's closed. Yeah, they're not gonna take any questions. That's what it seemed like right now.
that's
But
insane. Yeah,
when
everything's
you
at.
said you weren't gonna play it, what I will say is I do have the same thought process, but what I'll do is there's only a hedge. There's only a risk that in the case that it gets cancelled, that everything's gonna go no. There's no like reverse of that where it's gonna be like everything goes yes. So if you play ends that you think are a good value, then you can play it as though it were a normal
Yeah, and you
market.
get the
Would have the
added.
extra,
Yeah.
the extra bonus of it potentially being cancelled. That's what I do, and I did that for this market. I made a few $100, I think, plus 437 on this.
I should have played this. See? Told you guys.
And if you
I'm
think
not that
something's
sharp.
gonna get cancelled, then you put a bunch of money on the cheapest no that you can find. That's another good thing you can do too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Um well, man, yeah. This is like super this has been like super interesting. I guess any you talked about limit orders. I know you have to go at 6:30 for a dinner thing. Any like
Yep.
advice you want to give to new traders? You touched on limit orders, but you know,
Yeah, I would say for new people, a good piece of advice is find a niche. We talked about this a bit more before, but also research the person. That's obviously if you're gonna do mentions, it's gonna be on a specific person. Then you need to do a lot of research on that particular person because some people like to say certain words a lot more than others, and
right.
that's very important based on the strikes that you're trading. So if you have a generic political event, they'll sometimes reuse the same strikes from one event to another, and you can use that to your advantage if some politicians like don't use any of these words at all, or they use them a lot more often than the average politician. You can use that in your favor to either buy Ys or Ns based on the research that you've done. So I'd find like old speeches of them in similar contexts. So if they're doing a rally, then you want to find an old Bernie rally, for example. You can just look it up on YouTube, and you can see the topics that they go over, the words that they say, how long they're speaking, that kind of thing. And that will give you a better understanding of how to price something fairly.
Yeah. Yeah, just doing research in general is like my advice of like don't just purely go off vibes. I mean, Logan is out there. I don't know if he's watching, but Logan is like a huge I
He's
don't know if you ever,
crazy.
yeah, and he's like
Yeah.
he's vibes, man, and he's just like so sharp. Like his
Hey, really? I thought he was like super like
Oh,
into doing research on like.
oh yeah,
He
yeah.
told me about how he's doing
No,
research
on
for like
mentions. I was talking about just
okay,
mentions, but like
mentions, yeah.
he obviously is like does a ton of
On
research,
elections.
but
He's like doing research on like French snap elections and Netherlands elections. I'm like, how the hell do you even like study this shit?
But like for Trump
Early.
mentions, he was telling me he's like almost purely vibes, and he just like kills. He kills on those.
Yeah.
So it's crazy. Foster is obviously extremely vibes heavy, but he's also like super good at the stuff you were talking about earlier about just thinking of all the possibilities with
Yeah.
types of words, things like that. But man, it's been a pleasure having you on. Really appreciate you coming on, and like again, like love your story. I mean, I'm just confident that like you're gonna continue to run up your port, and just I would, guys, make a prediction on who will hit 100K first, me or Esoteric Catboy. My money would be on Esoteric Catboy.
Don't say that. Oh, what's your portfolio looking at like right now?
So I mean, I'm up like 61K, but I
Nice.
withdrew like 20 something K. So I'm gonna actually
Okay.
deposit back the 20K. And yeah, I'm gonna deposit back the 20K, so I'll have more money to be able to like bond stuff. So I got double your size right now. If I can't beat
Yeah.
you there, something's wrong.
Hey, I wouldn't be too worried about it. Like, I'm glued to my screen for the past like 12 hours every day. So if I do catch up, then you got to make content. You got to do all this other shit. So
Yeah.
it's totally understandable.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're a really sharp trader too. So I don't think you'll have any issues.
Look, I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Any last thing you want to leave with the audience?
Yeah, just thank you guys for following me on Twitter. Thank you guys for listening to what I have to say. It's kind of surreal to me. I had like 100 followers before I started tweeting about prediction markets, and then you actually quote tweeted one of my tweets, chatted me out, and then after that, I just like my account has just been blowing up. I'm at 900 followers now, like a week later, which is crazy. So thank you guys for following me. I'm gonna keep on giving picks and advice and that kind of thing. So if you want to see more of that, then check out my page. And yeah, thanks for having me on PMT. It's been great.
It's been a pleasure, man. Keep killing it. Talk soon.
You too. See ya.
See ya. Wow, that was freaking awesome. I mean, if there was any doubt people had on this stream before he came on like, is this guy just getting lucky or is he sharp? I mean, I can tell you definitively, this guy is absolutely sharp. Like, and I'm just like so blown away that in only a month of trading, like the shit he was bringing up and what he's thinking about with mentions is like just really good strategies, like that are 100% like same way I think about mentions, same way I know a lot of like really top sharp traders are thinking about mentions. So that guy is a legend. And then hearing like his background at 21 and like what he was interested in is like just so funny. How excited he was to be 21, start trading even options, all these other things. Granted, guys, I don't trade options. I don't recommend anyone trade options. I don't think he does either. But obviously, there's like a funnel of things you get interested in, you know. So that was crazy. I have no doubt that he's gonna like break through 100K very soon. And hey, you know, he was talking about the quote tweets, guys. Look, if you start posting solid trades and you're explaining your rationale on Twitter, stuff like that, like I love amplifying you guys, posting trades, like you know, and I love like guys, if you want to go on like a trading journey with like a public profile is like best, guys. And then it's just, you know, be honest with your trades, what you're doing. And even if you're like winning or losing, like it's interesting if you're like, don't be afraid if you're down money or if you're losing. It's like, it's still cool to document it and you can learn, and I'm sure people will help you. But that's my favorite type of content, is like the stuff he's doing, talking about. I just love seeing someone like that who's like brand new to Kalshi and is just freaking killing it on these mentions. Is like, it's pretty awesome to see. So PMT, do you think the Trump dinner will also be closed press? What does it say on roll call? It says White House press pool. No, I don't think it'll be closed press. I think it'll probably be open. That's what it seems like, but yeah, that's crazy though, Chris. I remember you were calling it on the stream this morning to play the no shares. You did, Varun or DJ Invol? How much did you make? I should have played no's this morning. I don't know why I didn't. I was just let's just say that stream this morning got a little crazy towards the end with a little bit of a shock. For anyone that was watching. Varun, I gotta get you on the stream eventually. What's your P&L been the last like month and a half? What's up, Polsey from Twitch? I actually just had my guest on, Polsey. We just finished the interview. He's the guy who turned it up to 30K. But if you follow me on like Twitter, YouTube, I'd recommend Twitter. Why Kalshi easy back? I mean, I'm trading mention markets. They tend to have like the deepest liquidity for mentions. So And then also I'm like in the US, I'm in New York. Oh yeah, JMac. Well, JMac, if you start trading, start posting your Kalshi trades, guys. I don't care what you run your portfolio to. I love having traders on who are, I feel like Chicken Little. Check your DM. All right. No, I've been seeing it. I just